You ever show up somewhere thinking you're wanted, only to realize you were just tolerated? That was me this Easter, standing on my parents' front porch like a fool, arms full of grocery bags, sweating through my best Sunday shirt while the April wind whipped at my back. Inside, I could hear them. Laughter, silverware clinking. Somebody, probably my sister Lauren, squealing about how perfect everything was this year. No drama, no tension. No me, apparently. I shifted the bags. Ham, pies, a bottle of wine that cost more than my electric bill. And knocked. Not too loud. Just enough. Nothing. Knocked again. Finally, the door creaked open. It was Mom. Tight smile. Apron dusted with flour like some weird Hallmark movie extra. Hey. Oh, she said. Not hi, not happy Easter, not even thanks for bringing all the food, just, oh. I half laughed because honestly, what else do you do? You gonna let me in? Or, she hesitated. I swear I could see the war happening behind her eyes. Then she stepped onto the porch, pulling the door mostly closed behind her, shielding the house like she was guarding a crime scene. It's just, maybe not the best time, she said, voice soft, like if she spoke too loud, the truth might slip out. I blinked. Mom, I brought half the food. I know, sweetie, she said, twisting the hem of her apron. It's just, Lauren said she wouldn't stay if you came. Boom. There it was. The golden child strikes again. Inside, I heard her laugh, loud and syrupy. This year feels different, doesn't it? No stress. No awkwardness. No me. I didn't even realize I was smiling until my face started to hurt. Not a happy smile. The kind you make when the last brick finally falls off the house you were pretending was still standing. I set the bags down carefully. Like they were explosives, like any sudden movement might make me blow. You know what's funny? I said, fishing my keys out of my pocket. I just paid off your water bill last week, figured I'd cover it so everyone could have a nice Easter. Mom flinched. Just a little. And the grocery tab Lauren racked up on the family credit card? The one you couldn't figure out how to split? I added. Yeah. That cleared yesterday, happy to help. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Like a fish gasping on a dock. You're making this about money, she whispered. No, Mom, I said, stepping back. You did. I'm just finally noticing. I picked up my keys. Left the food sitting there like a broken offering. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of the dining room. Lauren perched at the head of the table, holding court like some Easter queen. My chair, my usual chair, shoved against the wall, no room for me. Got it. Tell them I said hi, I said, backing down the steps. Better yet, tell them I said, good luck, you're gonna need it. Mom's hand hovered near the door like she wanted to reach for me. Or maybe just close it faster. Either way, she didn't move. Berber's pot. I slid into my car, slammed the door, sat there for a second, breathing, letting the heat of it sink in. Berber's pot. I thought about the hundreds of bills I'd paid over the years, the broken down cars I'd fixed, the emergency Venmos, the time I spent sleepless, anxious, wondering how they'd make rent or keep the lights on, while they laughed behind my back about how tight I was with money. I thought about every thankless Easter, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, where my presence was expected, but never actually wanted unless I came bearing gifts, groceries, or bailouts. And for the first time it wasn't sadness pulling in my chest, Forza, it was clarity, Forza, Hill, Balai Prates, Sixten Kubel, Taiwe Chiasam my Prates, Sixten Kubel, Balai Chiasam my Prates. They didn't want me, pray my Prates. They wanted my wallet, my stability, my guilt, Forza. And maybe it was time they found out what life looked like without it. I started the car, pulled away from the curb without a glance back. The food stayed on the porch, getting cold. The bottle of wine? Good luck, Lauren. You're gonna need it to wash down all that peace. As I drove, a strange calm settled over me. Not rage, not heartbreak. Just this low, steady certainty. I was done being the family fixer. This year, Easter wasn't about resurrection. It was about walking away from a grave I should have left a long time ago. And somehow, for the first time in years. It actually felt like spring. The first time they stuck me with a bill, I was 19. Dad's old pickup blew a gasket 2 days before Easter. I barely had $200 to my name, scraping shifts at the local diner between community college classes, but Mom called crying. Your father's too proud to ask, she said, voice tight like a fishing line about to snap. Can you cover the repair? We'll pay you back next week, promise. Spoiler alert. They didn't. Next week turned into next month. Next month turned into, Oh, honey, you're doing so well now, and we're struggling. And me? I swallowed it. Ate the loss. Told myself it was just money. Family mattered more than a stupid paycheck. Or so I thought. What I didn't realize was that Easter wasn't a one-off. It was an audition. VS. They were testing how much they could lean on me. VS's. How far they could push before I pushed back. VS. Turns out I didn't push back. VS. I built a bridge out of my own bones and invited them to cross it. Fast forward a decade. ZS. I was the guy they called when the car insurance lapsed. When the water heater broke. When Brittany's entrepreneurial venture needed an emergency investment. Spoiler again, it was an MLM for energy drinks. Every birthday, every holiday, every family dinner, I showed up with a casserole in one hand and a checkbook in the other. Testerson. I paid to belong. And they let me. They loved me. As long as I picked up the check. If I ever hesitated, cue the guilt parade. We're family. You know Lauren's struggling. Your dad's blood pressure's been bad. Don't you care? And man, did they know how to work it. Lauren once cried over FaceTime because her rent was late. 2 hours later, she posted pictures from a wine and paint night on Instagram, captioned, "Treat yourself, you deserve it. Paid for by yours truly." Mom would accidentally mention how hard it was to afford groceries after paying my old student loans, the ones I co-signed for, and she defaulted on when I was 24. Dad? Dad had the nerve to joke at a family barbecue, beer in hand. At least one of my kids turned out profitable. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. What else do you do when you realize the people you love see you as an ATM with a heartbeat? You shove the anger down. You tell yourself it's normal. You build a thicker skin. You convince yourself that it's just what good sons do. Juisa. Good sons pay. Juisa. Good sons don't complain. See you as an AT. Good sons make sacrifices and call it love. Juices, he bill a staff. He bill a staff. He bill a staff. But somewhere along the way, the math stopped adding up. Lauren's rough patch never ended. But somehow she always had new purses, new shoes, new vacations. Dad's retirement struggles didn't stop him from buying a fishing boat on sale. Mom's emergency grocery needs somehow included scented candles, high-end makeup, and $400 worth of vitamins she never even opened. And me? I was working 60-hour weeks, skipping vacations, patching together side gigs to keep up, all so they could feel comfortable. Funny thing about carrying people, after a while they forget you're even lifting them. They just assume the ground is soft everywhere. It hit me hardest last Christmas. I scraped together the cash to fly out 3 layovers, slept in an airport chair because plane tickets were insane. Showed up exhausted, holding 2 suitcases full of gifts I'd gone into credit card debt to buy. You know what greeted me? Not thanks, not hugs, not even Merry Christmas. Just Lauren, smirking from the couch, unwrapping a shiny new MacBook and laughing. Guess Santa finally stopped being cheap this year. Everyone laughed. Even Mom. Even Dad. And me? I laughed too. Winchaiaga. Tight and shite. Brittle. The kind that scrapes your throat raw on the way out. Winchaiaga. Later that night I found the receipt in the trash. Winchaiaga. Guess who paid for it? Winchaiaga. Hint. Not Santa. It was my emergency credit card. The one Mom had the login for, just in case. Apparently, just in case, now covered luxury electronics for the golden child. That night, lying on the pull-out couch with a busted spring digging into my ribs, staring at the ceiling, I felt it. Something shift. Crack. Maybe it was my patience. Maybe it was my pride. Maybe it was just plain common sense finally dragging itself out of whatever shallow grave I'd buried it in. Whatever it was, it said, enough. And once you hear that voice, you can't unhear it. Well, you can try. Miggy was. God knows I tried for months. Bell-eyed a cog there. Told myself Easter would be different. That if I showed up, smiled enough, paid enough, they'd notice. Appreciate, love. Ray tried a cog there. Instead, they didn't even bother hiding it anymore. Das Tround. They wanted my money. Das Trider. They didn't want me. And this Easter? I finally decided to believe them. You'd think the Easter porch fiasco would have been enough. The bags of food left to wilt on the steps, Mom's door half closed like she was shielding the family from some contagion, namely, me. But life's got a funny way of making sure the knife twists just right before you pull it out. Mommyin, it was a few days later. Mommyin. I was back home, still nursing the kind of hollow anger that doesn't even burn, just settles in your chest like smoke. I opened my bank app out of habit. Just a quick glance to see what damage the holiday had done. Spoiler, more than I expected. A string of charges caught my eye. Not small stuff. No grocery runs, no gas fill-ups. Big numbers. a $1,200 charge from a spa resort, a $450 dinner at some trendy seafood place downtown, a $2,800 airline ticket to Cancun. At first, my brain tried to make it make sense. Enga, maybe it's fraud, I thought. Maybe someone skimmed my card number at a gas station. Enga. But the billing addresses were too familiar. Enga. Lauren's apartment. Veras. Mom and Dad's house. Willie and Juil. I felt my stomach turn over. Veras. You know that feeling when you hit black ice and the car doesn't listen anymore? Willie and Juil. Yeah, that's real. I scrolled faster, heart hammering. More spa charges, luxury hotel bookings, designer outlet purchases. Thousands of dollars. All in the last 2 weeks. All on my emergency card. The card I gave Mom access to, just in case. The one she promised would only be touched if someone was dying or bleeding out on a hospital floor. Apparently, Easter mimosas in Cancun now counted as an emergency. Go Alti. I called her. Biate and Drukal. Biate Alti. Biate and Drukal. Biate and Drukal. Go Alti and Drukal. Go Alti and Drukal. Biate and Drukal. Woolmill. I needed to hear it. Go Alti and Drukal. Miate and Drukal. Go Alti and Drukal. Miate Alti. Straight from her mouth. Biate and Drukal. She answered on the third ring. Hey sweetheart, she chirped. Voice too bright. Too fake. Mom, I said, already hearing the edge in my voice. Did you or Lauren use my emergency card recently? Silence. Then a soft, guilty cough, like she was stalling for time. Well, it was just a few things, she said, voice pitched high. Lauren needed a break. She's been stressed with work and everything, you know? And, well, you always say money isn't tight for you. I gripped the phone tighter. Mom, I said, slow and even. You spent over $5,000. On spas. Flights. Hotels. She gasped, like the number shocked her more than the actual betrayal. Well, it's not like you can't afford it, she said, defensive now. You're doing so well. Lauren's been struggling for years. I almost laughed. Almost. Because that's when it hit me. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a one-off mistake. It wasn't even desperation. It was entitlement. They thought they deserved it. Not because they were hurting. Not because they asked. Because they could. Because I was convenient, disposable. Their personal bailout plan with a smiley face sticker slapped on. Something broke clean inside me then. No screaming. No threats. Just a deep cold clarity. They weren't going to stop. KCM. Why would they? KCM. I'd train them not to. Every bill I covered. KCM tappin'. Every debt I forgave. Every insult I swallowed. KCM. It built this. KCM. Brick by miserable brick. Every debt I fall. And if I didn't burn it down now, they'd keep building on my back forever. Every debt I fall. I hung up without another word. Every debt I fall. Mom tried calling back. Twice. Every debt I fall. I let it ring. Then I blocked the number. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, same one I'd sat at to pay their bills, to Venmo them gas money, to Google cheap therapy options for myself when the weight of it all felt too much. And I made a plan. Not rage, not revenge, just survival. I pulled up every autopay link to my accounts. Water, gas, electric, Hulu, Disney Plus, Spotify family. One by one, I canceled them. I drafted emails to the utility companies, transferring everything back to their original names, with clear, hard deadlines. I set end dates on every shared subscription. These. No more free rides on my Netflix binge nights. These. I sent a final text to Mom. These. No anger. No name calling. Just plain fact. Effective immediately. I'm no longer financially responsible for you, Dad, or Lauren. All utilities and accounts linked to my name will be disconnected by Friday. You'll need to make new arrangements. Happy Easter. No response. Not at first. But I knew they got it. Because 2 hours later, Lauren posted a cryptic Instagram story. Black background, white font, classic guilt trip energy. Some people will betray you the second you need them most. But karma never sleeps. I almost laughed. If she thought financial abuse was needing someone, then karma was wide awake and packing a lunch. I went to bed early that night. No guilt, no second guessing. Just a strange, heavy quiet, like the world was shifting under my feet. But for once, it was shifting in my favor. The bridge was burning behind me, and all I could feel was warmth. There's something liberating about quiet revenge. Not the kind you scream about in parking lots or text in all caps at 2 a.m. I'm talking about the silent kind, the kind you set up carefully, methodically, like laying tripwire in a jungle. It's not about hurting anyone. It's about stopping them from hurting you. And after Easter, after the porch, after the bills, after the Cancun betrayal, I realized it was past time to stop being the family medic and start being my own damn bodyguard. Namanta. The first thing I did was audit every corner of my financial life. Shills, utilities, Chelo Wio. Gone. I made sure the water, power, and Wi-Fi bills were flagged for disconnection by the weekend, all in their names now, all on their credit. Streaming services? I changed every password. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Spotify, and deauthorized every device except my own. Credit cards? I froze the emergency card. Issued myself a new one. Shredded the old. Bank accounts? I closed the shared one Mom used to borrow from when things were tight. Spoiler, they were never tight enough to skip her daily Starbucks run. Auto payments? Canceled. Every single family plan subscription, group discount, shared phone bill, terminated. I was meticulous. No loose ends. No second chances. No room for, oops, I didn't know. If they wanted heat, internet, or working toilets this Easter, they were going to have to figure it out like adults. I even set reminders on my phone. Confirmations that the shutdowns would happen on schedule. Friday, water bill final notice. Saturday, Wi-Fi deactivated. Sunday, power set to shut off at noon, right in the middle of their pastel-glazed brunch plans. It wasn't petty, it was math. They'd rung up a debt they never intended to pay, and for once, I was closing the account. Blank, underscore, blank. Saturday night, I sat on my balcony with a beer, feeling the spring chill bite at my skin, watching the city lights blink like lazy fireflies. Phone buzzed once. Mom. Didn't answer. Buzzed again. Dad. Straight to voicemail. A group text popped up, family Easter details. I opened it out of morbid curiosity. Lauren, of course, had appointed herself the ringleader. Hey fam, just a reminder, Easter brunch at 1 p.m. Bring your appetite. We're doing potluck style. Closing parenthesis, quote, dot. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Yanziga. Potluck, huh? Wonder if they remembered who usually brought the main course. Jamazansanratu he. Or paid for the groceries. Or covered the electric bill that kept the oven running. I smiled to myself. Slow, real. They were about to find out. Blank, underscore, blank. Sunday morning, I woke up early. Not out of guilt. Out of habit. For years, holidays meant stress. Last-minute grocery runs. Bank transfers. Checking if Mom needed another side dish. Covering Lauren's forgotten Venmo split. But this Easter, I made coffee. Played some lazy vinyl on my old record player. Stretched out on the couch with the sun warming my bare feet like a cat. Peace. Real, undiluted peace. Not the fake kind you buy by swallowing your anger and writing another check. The kind you earn by drawing a line and daring anyone to cross it. At exactly noon, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a group text explosion. Lauren. WTF, power just went out mid-cooking. The fridge is dead. Mom, sweetie, something's wrong with the house. Please, call me. Dad, did you mess with the utilities? I sipped my coffee. Let the messages pile up like junk mail. A few minutes later, another text from Lauren. Did you cancel the power? We have kids here. This is dangerous. You're sick. That one almost made me laugh out loud. Dangerous. For years, they hadn't seen any danger in bleeding me dry. But now, a little inconvenience during their pastel parade. And suddenly, I was the villain? Cute. Very on brand. Another buzz. Mom again. Please, honey, just fix it. We can talk later. Fix it. The classic family motto. I fix, they break. I patch, they party. Not anymore. Digway. I tossed the phone on the coffee table. Muted. Let them stew. Digway. They was their house. Day points blime. Their utilities. Their problem. Me? I had plans. They didn't involve shame, digway, or guilt, or begging to be let back into a house that only ever welcomed my checkbook. Me. I grabbed my keys. Stepped into the bright, spring afternoon. And drove. Not away from something, but towards something better. Freedom. By the time I hit the highway, my phone looked like it was trying to tap dance off the dashboard. Calls, texts, Lauren, Mom, Dad, even Aunt Kathy, chiming in from Florida, somehow already briefed and furious. Guess when you cut off the family cash cow, news travels fast. I didn't answer. Instead, I rolled down the window, let the spring air rush in, and turned up the radio until the buzzing felt a million miles away. Part of me, the old part, the part that still flinched when Mom sighed just a little too loud, wanted to feel guilty, wanted to believe I was ruining some sacred day, wrecking Easter. But deep down, I knew the truth. Easter was never about family. It was about optics. It was about pretending for a few hours that the fractures weren't real. That everything was fine, as long as the ham was glazed and the deviled eggs looked good on Instagram. This time, the cracks weren't hidden anymore. And it wasn't my job to spackle over them with money. Blank, underscore, blank. About an hour later, parked at a little coffee shop downtown, I finally let myself peek at the group texts. Big mistake. Lauren, does anyone know a good electrician? Mom's crying. Mom, we had to throw away the ham. All the food is spoiled. This is so unfair. Dad, you're making a scene. Come fix it, now. Lauren, the kids are traumatized. The kids? Of course. When guilt doesn't stick, bring in the kids. Never mind that those same traumatized kids were the ones who got iPads every Christmas, courtesy of their stingy uncle. Never mind that I was expected to buy Easter baskets, donate to every school fundraiser, and pick up pizza for the family nights I was never really part of. Now suddenly I was the monster, because the free ride hit a dead end. Not my circus, not my monkeys, not my monkeys. I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the warmth bleed into my hands, letting the noise slide right off me. Blank, underscore, blank. It wasn't until later that evening that the real fireworks started. Apparently, Lauren decided to host an emergency family meeting at a Panera Bread, of all places. Because if you're gonna stage a guilt intervention, nothing says we care, like stale bagels and lukewarm soup. I wasn't invited, obviously. But thanks to a couple of text screenshots from my cousin Rachel, who had the good sense to keep her head down, I got the play-by-play. Dad stood up halfway through a bread bowl and started ranting about how family doesn't abandon each other. Mom cried into her broccoli cheddar. Lauren demanded that everyone chip in to fix the damage I'd caused, namely the overdue utility bills and the spoiled Easter feast. Nobody volunteered. Not even Uncle Mike, who once bragged about winning $800 on a scratch-off ticket but still forgot to bring a side dish to Thanksgiving every year. By the time they passed the hat around, the pot had about $17 and a handful of lint. Rachel said it was the first time she ever saw Lauren speechless. Honestly, I wish I could have seen it live. Would have been the best Easter show I'd ever witnessed. Better than any egg hunt. Better than any brunch. Better than any fake toast about family first. Late that night, as I sat on my couch flipping through an old novel I'd been meaning to read for months, another message came through. Mom, you proved your point. I hope you're happy. The family is broken now. All because you couldn't just be generous. I stared at it for a long time. The temptation was there. God, it was there, to explain, to defend, to write a manifesto about all the years, all the dollars, all the dignity I'd handed over like it was expected. But then I thought, would it matter? Would any of them hear it? Or would they just twist it into another reason I was selfish and cruel? I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because it didn't deserve a reply. Some debts can't be paid off with explanations. Some debts aren't worth paying off at all. You know what the weirdest part was? The sky didn't fall. The earth didn't crack open and swallow me whole. No divine thunderclap. No karmic lightning bolt. Just quiet. Outside, somewhere in the distance, a few leftover fireworks from some early spring festival popped off. Faint little bursts of color against the dark. Freedom doesn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes, it's just sitting alone on your couch, sipping cheap wine out of a coffee mug, realizing you finally stopped setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Sometimes, it's just breathing. And meaning it. They didn't knock. They pounded. It was 2 days after Easter. I was home, feet up on the coffee table, halfway through a documentary about people who moved to Alaska to live off the grid. Fitting, honestly. The pounding rattled the door on its hinges. Open up! Dad's voice thundered, like he thought he was still the sheriff of some town that respected him. I muted the TV. Sat there, just listening. More fists joined in. Mom's shrill pleading. Lauren's dramatic yowling. The guilt parade had officially rolled into town. I took a long, slow breath. Pizza! Let the calm settle deep in my chest. Pizza! Then I stood up and opened the door. Pizza! Lauren stumbled forward first. Face blotchy. Eyeliner smudged like she was auditioning for a soap opera. You have to fix this, she spat. Behind her, Dad's jaw worked like a cement mixer. Mom wrung her hands, shifting her weight from foot to foot like a little kid who had to pee. I leaned casually against the doorframe. Fix what? I asked, voice level. IK. Dad puffed up. You know what. The house, the bills, the family. I blinked. Innocent. You mean the things that were never mine to fix in the first place? Lauren shoved past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. Nice. I watched Mom hesitate on the threshold. Good. But eventually she caved and shuffled in too. Dad followed, closing the door behind him with a slam that rattled the frames on the wall. They fanned out in the living room like they were preparing for trial. I didn't sit, didn't invite them to sit, didn't offer water, no hospitality for trespassers. You embarrassed us, Mom said, voice cracking, on a holy day. I tilted my head. You mean the day you told me, again, that I wasn't really family unless I paid for my seat? Silence. Just the hum of my refrigerator and the heavy breathing of 3 people who were realizing, too late, that their usual playbook wasn't gonna work. Dad tried a different tactic. You're blowing this out of proportion. You're acting like some spoiled brat. That got a bark of bitter laughter out of me. Me? I said, crossing my arms. I'm spoiled? Lauren threw up her hands. Oh my God, listen to yourself. This isn't how family acts. No, I said. It's not. Family doesn't siphon money out of someone and call it love. Family doesn't slam the door in your face after you drive 3 hours to be there. Family doesn't use guilt like a leash. Mom's lip trembled. We needed help. You needed control, I said. Dad stepped forward, face red. You think you're some kind of hero because you paid a few bills? A few bills. $20,000 over the last 7 years. 2 used cars, 3 emergency dental visits, 12 months of groceries, dozens of dinners, hundreds of little loans that never came back. But yeah, sure, just a few bills. I smiled. A real smile. One that didn't have to hide anymore. No, I said. I'm not a hero. I'm just done being the fool. Lauren's voice sharpened. You'll regret this. I met her eyes. Steady. No, I said. I'll regret not doing it sooner. They stared at me like they didn't even recognize the person standing in front of them. Maybe they didn't. Maybe the old me, the one who would have crumbled at the first sign of tears or anger, really was dead. Good. About time. Blank. Underscore. Blank. They threw every trick in the book at me. Crying. Shouting. Guilt-tripping. Bringing up childhood memories like some broken jukebox stuck on sad songs. None of it worked. I didn't scream. I didn't explain Fane, Dallas. I didn't apologize. I just stood there, solid as a mountain, letting them exhaust themselves. When the rage finally sputtered out, Mom tried one last card. The nuclear option. You'll die alone, she whispered, tears tracking mascara down her cheeks. I nodded thoughtfully. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll die free. Blank, underscore, blank. The silence after that was deafening. Dad grunted, shoved the door open, and stormed out. Lauren followed, muttering under her breath about ungrateful brats and family shame. Mom lingered for a second longer, looking at me like she was trying to memorize the face of a ghost. Then she left too. The door swung shut with a hollow click. And just like that, it was over. Blank, underscore, blank. I locked the door, turned the deadbolt, leaned my forehead against the cool wood, and smiled, not out of spite, not out of triumph, out of relief. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't cave. I didn't buy my way back into a room that only ever tolerated me when my wallet was open. I chose me. I chose peace. And holy hell, it felt good. The first thing you notice after you stop carrying other people's weight? The silence. Not the heavy, aching kind. Not the silence of slammed doors or unspoken grudges. No. This was different. This silence was earned. It hummed like fresh air through an open window. It filled the corners of my apartment that used to be stuffed with stress and guilt. Haller, 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 haller. It settled into my bones like warmth after a long winter. Haller, haller, shaller, haller. Nobody called asking for money. Nobody texted vague threats wrapped in guilt. For the first time in a decade, my phone was just a phone, not an alarm system for other people's emergencies. And man, that silence, it tasted better than any Easter ham or store-bought forgiveness ever could. Blank, underscore, blank. At first, I didn't know what to do with all the extra space in my life. Old habits die hard. I kept checking my bank app automatically, bracing for the next overdraft from helping. Nothing. Just steady numbers. Exactly where I left them. I found myself waiting for the next crisis call. The hey quick thing, messages that used to start every financial ambush. None came. It was almost eerie, but not bad. It was the kind of eerie you get walking through a forest after a storm. Everything still, everything clean, everything quietly daring you to start over. So I did. Blank underscore, blank. I started cooking. Real cooking. Not microwave dinners or sad pasta with ketchup when the paycheck ran dry. Actual food. I filled my fridge with things that went bad if you didn't eat them. Fresh basil, ripe avocados, plump tomatoes that smelled like summer when you bit into them. I butchered recipes, burned rice, Oversalted soup? Didn't matter. It was mine. I was feeding myself, not patching holes in someone else's ship, not patching holes in someone else's mind. I feeding myself a matter. I picked up my old guitar. Not patching someone else's mind, the one gathering dust in the closet since college. Mine matters. Strings were rusted, frets dull, patching mind, patching someone else's mind. I else's mind. Not patching mind, I feeding mine mind. Strings were rusted. Didn't matter. I sat by the window at night, plucking out clumsy chords, letting the mistakes ring out into the world without apology. Bad music. Good healing. I wasn't playing for anyone but me, and somehow, that made every missed note feel perfect. Blank, underscore, blank. I started sleeping again too. Real sleep. Not the shallow kind where your brain keeps one eye open, waiting for the next disaster. The kind where you sink deep into the mattress, where your dreams stop feeling like unpaid invoices and second chances slipping through your fingers. I woke up rested, clear-headed, whole, blank, underscore, blank. A few weeks in, I realized something else had changed. I stopped worrying about being good enough, not just for my family. For anyone. I didn't owe proof of my goodness anymore. I didn't owe my success to anyone's approval. I didn't have to pay a toll to exist. I was just here, living, existing, breathing air that didn't come with fine print. And honestly, it felt a little like being born again. No baptism needed. Just a clean break. Blank, underscore, blank. Sure, there were moments, flashes of old guilt that tried to creep back in. When the holidays came up again. When birthdays rolled around. When some distant relative posted a passive-aggressive meme about ungrateful children. But the difference now? I let those moments pass. Like a bad song on the radio. Change the station. Keep driving. I didn't reach out to defend myself. Didn't send long texts trying to explain the real story. Didn't Venmo money to patch wounds I didn't cause. I sat in the quiet and trusted myself. Trusted that sometimes loving yourself means disappointing everyone who benefits from you hating yourself. And that's not cruelty. It's survival. Blank, underscore, blank. One night, I found myself back at that little coffee shop downtown, the one I ducked into on Easter Sunday, when everything first cracked open. New barista. New specials scrawled on the chalkboard. Same creaky stools and dusty windows. I ordered a black coffee. No frills, no extras. Just simple and strong. While I waited, I looked out the window at the streetlights blinking in the dusk. And for the first time in years, maybe ever, I didn't feel like a ghost pressing my face to the glass, begging to be let in. I felt like the guy who owned his own place in the world. No applause, no parade. Just the quiet satisfaction of standing where you chose to be, not where someone else guilted you into staying. Maybe Allington. The barista called my name. In C. I took my coffee. Chua. Sat by the window. Juari. Sipped slow. And smiled. Freedom didn't come with fireworks. It came with a cheap cup of coffee, an empty inbox, and a heart that finally beat to its own rhythm. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It took them about a month. A month of silence. A month of their bills stacking up without my bailout. A month of Easter photos with fake smiles that couldn't quite cover the cracks. Then came the letter, handwritten from Mom. No return address. No stamp. Just tucked under my apartment door like some relic from a time when words on paper could still fix things. Huh? I stood there, staring at it for a long minute. Like it might explode if I touched it wrong. Finally, I opened it. First line. You've made your point. Second line. We're willing to forgive you. Forgive me, I laughed. Loud and unashamed. There it was. The final proof I didn't even know I was waiting for. They didn't miss me. They missed the benefits of me. The money. The convenience. The feeling of having someone lower on the totem pole to climb over when things got uncomfortable. They weren't offering reconciliation. They were offering a reset button. One where I swallowed my hurt, reopened my wallet, and pretended nothing had ever happened. I folded the letter once, twice, dropped it in the trash without ceremony. Didn't even hesitate. Didn't even hurt. Because the truth was simple. I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't theirs to fix. Or use. Or manipulate. I was mine. Finally. Later that week, I got a voicemail from Dad. Short. Blunt. You made your choice. Hope you're happy living all alone. It was meant to sting. Maybe a few months ago it would have ID. Maybe even a few weeks ago. But now? It just sounded tired. It just sounded tired. Old. like a tape running out of battery. Boshral Fide. I deleted the voicemail without even listening twice. Because here's the thing no one tells you about choosing yourself. The loneliness you're afraid of? It's not as scary as staying somewhere you're not wanted. It's not as heavy as shrinking yourself to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. It's not as soul-killing as selling your peace for a few scraps of conditional love. Real loneliness, the kind you choose, is clean, quiet, peaceful. You sit in it, and after a while, you realize it's not emptiness. It's space. Space to breathe, to rebuild, to finally live. The old me would have spent months second-guessing, would have replayed every conversation, every slammed door, every angry text, would have wondered if maybe, just maybe, it was my fault all along. This version of me? I didn't wonder. I knew. I knew I had poured more than enough of myself into a well that never gave water back. I knew I had shown up with casseroles and Christmas gifts and Easter baskets, even when they left me standing on the porch like a stray dog. I knew I had given and given and given, not because they asked nicely, but because I was desperate to believe I could buy love if I just gave enough. And I knew now. Love isn't a transaction. Real family doesn't keep score. Real family doesn't make you pay rent on your own heart. A few months later I moved. New apartment. New neighborhood. New start. I didn't leave a forwarding address. Didn't announce it on social media. Just packed my life into a few battered boxes, drove across town and started fresh. No guilt. No goodbyes. Just the soft, sweet sound of a door closing behind me and a window opening ahead. And the best part? And the best part? I found people who didn't need me to bleed to prove I loved them. Old friends who didn't care how much I made or what I could offer. New neighbors who waved just because it was a sunny day. And that's what decent people do. Alpakid, a dog from the shelter, who looked at me like I hung the moon, just for tossing a tennis ball across the yard. Little things. Real things. No hidden invoices. No guilt tax. No keeping tabs. Just life. Messy. Imperfect. Beautiful. Mine. Every now and then I get tempted to check in, to see what story they're telling about me now. The black sheep, the selfish one, the failure who abandoned his family over a few $1,000 and a bruised ego. I don't. Because their story doesn't define me anymore. It never really did. It was just the loudest one in the room for a long time. Dill. Now I'm writing my own. And it doesn't need an audience. Dill, it just needs me Chen. Free head B1. Whole. Free. Whole. Finally home.